And there are these little features that have been pushing down from the north. One brought some sleet and snow to parts of Wales and southwest England earlier on. That's clearing away. We do still have showers, though, just bumping into the east coast of England, particularly for Norfolk there, chiefly of rain. Elsewhere, most places fine and bright, sunny spells. The cloud increasing there for Northern Ireland and Scotland, so the sunshine turning hazy. It is chilly, temperatures below average for the time of year, but at least that wind is easing. Still a cold wind blowing those showers into the east coast through this evening. And then that next weather system bringing wet weather with some snow as it hits the colder air across Scotland for a time, and perhaps also for a time over parts of northern England, maybe even into the Midlands. A little bit of sleet and snow is possible. But although it'll turn quite cold this evening, that weather system will also introduce milder air, so temperatures will rise through the night. Still perhaps a little bit of snow across East Anglia and the southeast if you're up early enough on Friday morning, but that will quickly turn back to rain before the rain clears away. More rain then coming into the southwest later on tomorrow, but for, again, the bulk of the UK, it's dry. Quite a drab day across the south, lots of cloud here, but some sunny spells further north, but there will be some showers coming into western Scotland. Those showers of rain at low levels, but turning to snow over the hills. We could see a bit more rain pushing into Wales and perhaps a bit further north, maybe into the Midlands during Friday evening, and that leads into a mixed picture through the weekend. Going to stay on the cold side through the weekend. Some sunshine, but plenty of showers on Saturday. Sunny for many on Sunday, but still some showers along the east coast.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Join me, Alex Phillips, for the afternoon agenda on GB News, Monday to Thursday from 4 p.m. till 6 p.m. We don't lecture to you or try to tell you what to think. We do a deep delve into a topic with views from across the range of debate, therefore leaving you, the viewer, to make up your own mind. Join me, Alex Phillips, for the afternoon agenda on GB News, 4 till 6, Monday to Thursday. You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else, I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Hello and welcome to The Briefing with me, Gloria De Piero. Lots coming up today, including calls to make sharing fake, intimate images online a crime. Fair pay for musicians, so when you stream their songs, they actually earn something. And my Real Me interview today with MP Siobhan Bailey, where we get behind the persona and uncover the actual person. But first, it's the news.
I'm Rhiannon Jones. This is your news at 12 o'clock. A new COVID antibody treatment has been approved for use in the UK. Clinical trials found Xevudy cut hospital admissions and deaths by 79% in those at risk of developing severe disease. GlaxoSmithKline says it works against the new Omicron variant. The government has also secured 114 million jabs for potential booster campaigns over the next 2 years. Professor of Experimental Immunology Kingston Mills says they should help in the fight against the new variant.
We do know that boosting did enhance not only the antibody response to the original Wuhan strain, but also the Delta strain and the Alpha strain that preceded it. So there's a good chance that we'll at least give some protection. So I think there's a strong case to be made for boosting now with what's available.
Scientists believe they've found the trigger that causes rare blood clots after the Oxford-AstraZeneca vaccine. An international team from Cardiff and the US thinks it now understands how the vaccine can sometimes cause a chain reaction in the immune system. It's hoped the findings will help prevent and treat blood clots in the future. The hospitality industry is appealing for financial support, with a growing number of companies cancelling Christmas parties because of the Omicron variant. It follows a string of mixed messages from the government, with Boris Johnson saying festivities should go ahead, while other ministers suggest having big parties may not be sensible. Scottish Conservative Party member Dr Sandesh Gulhani says companies should take individual responsibility.
I think we need to be sensible. We need to ensure that we're safe. We need to ensure that we can distance as much as possible. We need to also ensure that, if we can, we take that lateral flow test to see if we're okay to be attending things. There is a risk, and there will always be a risk when it comes to office Christmas parties. But at the same time, I think that we need to have a balance. We need to strike a balance.
The Mail on Sunday has lost its Court of Appeal challenge against the Duchess of Sussex. That's after the paper published a personal letter from Meghan Markle to her estranged father. In a statement, she said that the invasion of privacy is a daily fail and that her victory again cements that the paper broke the law. France has accused Boris Johnson of starting the row over migrants. President Emmanuel Macron reportedly described the Prime Minister as a clown and a knucklehead as tensions ran high over the crisis in the Channel. Senior government sources say despite the comments, Mr Johnson continues to be a staunch advocate of the UK-France relationship. French politician Bruno Bonnell told GBNews the Prime Minister has only himself to blame for the international spat.
Publicizing a negotiation letter that should be underground and that should really remain behind curtains before we have an agreement was not something really nice to do, and not really smart, by the way, to do. So I think that in terms of rudeness, I would say that at this stage of the tension, I wouldn't point one or the other. I would just say that people are protecting their own interest.
Here we are with 27 totally unnecessary deaths. All Frontex can do is send one aeroplane. All the French president can do is sling insults at the Prime Minister. This is just really, really ridiculous. We should be trying to solve the problem, not insult each other.
The Ministry of Defence has set a new target for female recruits, aiming to more than double the number by 2030. It follows a landmark inquiry into the treatment of women in the armed services. It found that 64% of veterans and 58% of those still serving experienced bullying, harassment and discrimination during their careers. The government says the inquiry shows that the MOD has failed women on too many occasions. Forces Employment Charity CEO Alistair Halliday says gender diversity needs to be considered.
It absolutely makes sense that there is a push more to recruit more female, get more female recruits in with all the skills that they bring. I mean, there's been various reviews recently about the way that diversity and various other issues are tackled. And I think the three services, all of them, are taking this pretty seriously right now to make sure that it is a great place for female recruits to have a long and lasting and fulfilling career.
Christmas shoppers are being warned against relying on positive reviews for their purchases. The National Trading Standard says there's been a rise in criminals writing fake reviews to sell poor products. Government figures show they potentially influence £23 billion of UK consumer spending every year. The Competition and Markets Authority has launched a formal investigation into Amazon and Google over concerns they're not doing enough to combat fake reviews. And that's all the news for you. I'll have more in half an hour, but for now, back to the briefing with Gloria.
Coming up this hour on The Briefing, deep fake nude images are on the rise online and the effects can be devastating. I'm talking to the MP who wants us to be better protected. And we might love streaming our music, but spare a thought for the artists who produce it. Sometimes they may get nothing for their efforts. A bill going through Parliament aims to fix that. And I'll have the latest in my special series of interviews with MPs where we get behind the persona to find out about the real person. Today is Conservative MP Siobhan Bailey. Give me your political briefing. Send in your views and opinions by emailing gbviews@gbnews.uk or tweet me at gbnews. Well, we all know the risks of sharing an intimate picture on social media, but technology is so advanced that now your picture can be superimposed and put onto a porn site, and you can be made to look like you're naked. It's on the rise and the effects can be devastating. Now an MP is calling for the making or sharing of such images to be made a crime. And I'm delighted to be joined now by her, Maria Miller, Conservative MP for Basingstoke, who's leading a debate on this in Parliament later on today. Maria, welcome back to the show. It's good to see you and to talk to you about this. Just tell us what you are trying to do. Tell us about how this technology works.
Well, Gloria, the problem we have now is that innocent photographs that you might share on your Facebook page or other social media can be taken, stolen by another individual, and then used to either create through software an apparently naked image or indeed be superimposed on top of what can be quite extreme pornography, maybe even depicting simulated rape, and then distributed without you even knowing about it. And as victims have said to me, when they try and report this to the police, it isn't clear that it is yet a crime. So my debate today is all about saying to the government that in the online safety bill, which we hope will come forward in the next few months, we need to have specific laws that outline the taking and making of intimate images and the distribution of those images without consent, because at the moment it isn't clear in law that that is a crime and the impact on victims is really extreme.
How easy is it to get hold of this technology? Can anyone get access to it? Is it something you pay for? I've not heard of it.
It is readily accessible. You can understand why I wouldn't really want to name the brand names, because I don't want to give these sorts of pieces of software that publicity. But the ready availability of this sort of software, even in app form, means that we already have people who are victims of this appalling abuse. And at a time where the government is wanting to crack down on the violence that women and girls experience generally, but particularly online, I think it's really important that they tackle in criminal law the taking, making and sharing of intimate images. One of the big problems that victims have expressed to me is that if an image is created of them, which appears to be nudified or is deep fake video footage, that it can be very difficult for them to then get that taken down, mostly because it's not really recognised as a crime, and therefore getting people to act can be difficult. So this is an opportunity government to really come behind what is an emerging problem and make it clear today in the debate that they want to change the law to make the taking and making of intimate images like this a sex crime in the same way as similar activities offline will be treated.
Have the government indicated that they will support you, because the only way that you're going to get this measure through is if you get government support?
I think there's a real recognition amongst ministers across departments that we need to have better law that can future-proof against the way technology is developing, particularly in the way that it is women and girls. And I've really been heartened by that. The first work that I did in this area back in 2014, where I wanted to make sure that what's called revenge pornography was clearly illegal. It was a tough battle to get that recognised by the MOJ. Now, speaking to people like Nadine Dorries in the Department for Culture, Media and Sport, and others in the Home Office, there was a real recognition that the piecemeal approach that's happened in the past through bills like upskirting, revenge pornography, playing almost whack-a-mole with these issues as they arise, isn't the right way forward. We need a much more strategic approach to send a really clear message to anybody who's thinking of either distributing an intimate image without consent online or creating an image, that it's not just a crime, it's a sex crime, and that the penalties that they could experience would be akin to sexual abuse or even worse offline. Ultimately, at the moment, people don't see those penalties. And they're just taking the risk of creating images that can really be devastating in people's lives.
Conservative MP Maria Miller, thank you so much for explaining all about the moves that you are taking today. Thank you. Thank you. After the break, yes, GB News secured an exclusive interview with former US President Donald Trump. Find out exactly what he thinks Nigel will be happy in the future about after the break. Before that, it's time for your weather.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello again. It is cold out there today, but that strong wind that we had yesterday is gradually easing down, and for most, there's quite a bit of sunshine around as well. Here's the bigger picture. This little bump in the isobar, a ridge of high pressure, bringing most a fine day today, but this weather front will bring some wet weather tonight, and there are these little features that have been pushing down from the north. One brought some sleet and snow to parts of Wales and southwest England earlier on. That's clearing away. We do still have showers, though, just bumping into the east coast of England, particularly for Norfolk there, chiefly of rain. Elsewhere, most places fine and bright, sunny spells. The cloud increasing though for Northern Ireland and Scotland, so the sunshine turning hazy. It is chilly, temperatures below average for the time of year, but at least that wind is easing. Still a cold wind blowing those showers into the east coast through this evening, and then that next weather system bringing wet weather with some snow as it hits the colder air across Scotland for a time, and perhaps also for a time over parts of northern England, maybe even into the Midlands. A little bit of sleet and snow is possible, but although it'll turn quite cold this evening, that weather system will also introduce milder air, so temperatures will rise through the night. Still perhaps a little bit of snow across East Anglia and the southeast if you're up early enough on Friday morning, but that will quickly turn back to rain before the rain clears away. More rain then coming into the southwest later on tomorrow, but for, again, the bulk of the UK, it's dry. Quite a drab day across the south, lots of cloud here, but some sunny spells further north, but there will be some showers coming into western Scotland. Those showers of rain at low levels, but turning to snow over the hills. We could see a bit more rain pushing into Wales and perhaps a bit further north, maybe into the Midlands during Friday evening, and that leads into a mixed picture through the weekend. Going to stay on the cold side through the weekend. Some sunshine, but plenty of showers on Saturday. Sunny for many on Sunday, but still some showers along the east coast.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hi, I'm Alistair Stewart, and I really hope that you can join me here on GB News. I've been in this game for 40 years, and I've made lots of friends. I try and reflect what they think about the big stories of the day in conversation with me. That's why we call it Alistair Stewart and Friends, and you're a key part of it as well. I always get inundated with emails and messages and texts, and if they're really good, I play them back to you. 12 till 3, every Saturday and Sunday.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else, I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Now, whenever he speaks, former US President Donald Trump makes headlines, and last night was no exception. The Donald gave an exclusive interview to GB News. Nigel Farage spoke to former President Trump, and the interview covered everything from the storming of the Capitol building to Trump's views on the Duchess of Sussex. But perhaps the most interesting moment was when Nigel asked him about whether he'd run again, and he hinted he might. Let's have a look.
If you love the country, you have no choice. It's not a question. It's just, this is a wonderful, beautiful life. But I like that too because I was helping people. That's why I did it. And I think you'll be happy in the future too.
Let's speak now to our political editor, Darren McCaffrey, for his take. So what were your main takeaways from the interview, Darren?
I think in many regards, first of all, the big chunk at the start was looking back at what happened in that election last year, very controversial election, and also, of course, what happened on January 6th with the insurrection. And there is this sense, I think, even among those that actually quite support Donald Trump, is that he kind of needs to move on from that. He kept repeating time and time again about how the election had been rigged, which, we have to say is not true, as in it's been proven time and time again that it wasn't rigged. He did lose that election. Joe Biden is the president of the United States, not Donald Trump for that reason. And there are obviously still investigations into what precisely did happen on the 6th of January. We know there's an investigation in Congress on that. But there is that sense that, if Donald Trump does want to run again in 3 years' time, he needs to kind of move on from this constant narrative of what may well have happened next year. That's not going to help him. In saying that, when you look at where he is in the polls, if he was to be up against Joe Biden right now, you'd almost certainly win. Joe Biden's ratings have fallen quite significantly since he became president. But we've got an awful long time to go. And actually, a lot of the focus for the Republicans and Democrats is not on the US presidential election in 3 years' time. It's on these really important midterms next year, because they're going to decide what Congress, what the House of Representatives and the Senate looks like, which could be absolutely crucial.
And what is the state of American politics right now? What are the big issues?
Well, I mean, in many ways, there are some of the big issues that we've got here. So first of all, obviously, the coronavirus. They have found the new variant in the United States yesterday. There is a sense, again, about potentially states, and it is mainly states rather than the federal level, imposing new restrictions. Though, of course, to go into the United States now, if you're travelling from abroad, you will now have to present a PCR test. So there has been slight changes there. So clearly the pandemic, as it is not over anywhere in the world, is not over in the United States. Likely that President Biden, of course, will take a more cautious approach than President Trump has. Other big issues, again, like we have here, inflation. Inflation soaring in the United States, the cost of living going up, driven in part, of course, by those supply chain issues that we're seeing across the world, but also because the United States are embarking on this massive state spending spree, particularly on infrastructure. It was a key plank of President Biden's election campaign. We're talking about hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars, which invariably is going to drive up inflation. And also, again, a bit like here, there's an issue at the border. We've seen tens of thousands of people crossing that southern land border between Mexico and the United States, desperate to get in to the US. It's an ongoing issue. President Trump tried to build his wall. It didn't go terribly far, but to the point where we actually saw one man, I think from Guatemala, survive in the undercarriage of a plane to Miami airport, which is pretty rare, the other day. So the border issue, I think, is going to become another massive issue in American politics, simply on the sheer numbers of people trying to get in.
Do you think, from watching that interview last night, that Trump will run?
It's so difficult to tell. I mean, I don't know. I'm not in Donald Trump's mind. I'm sure he would love to win. I think what might play in his mind is clearly that he would run and lose. At the moment, would he get the candidacy from the Republican Party? Probably, but it's going to be a really competitive field, and there are a lot of Republicans who frankly don't want President Trump to win. They may well like him, they may well not like him, but they may well like Trumpism as in terms of his policies. But there is that concern that actually if he runs, he may well lose, because the thing about Donald Trump is that he's got this core group of very, very big supporters who love him to bits and think he's the best thing since sliced bread, but he's also a very divisive character. There are a lot of people who do not like him, and actually in part probably the main reason Joe Biden won the last election is not because people love Joe Biden or thought he's going to be the best president ever. It's simply because there were more people who really did not want to see 4 more years of Donald Trump. And I think that's the thing that's going to play heavily on Republicans. And frankly, I think it's going to be a big part to play in President Trump's decision. This is a man who hates losing, hence why he tries to claim falsely that he won the last time. I'm not entirely sure he could cope with losing another election. And also, he's going to be old or older. I mean, he will be the same age as President Biden was when he ran. But of course, Donald Trump's attacks of Sleepy Joe and saying he was too old will be a part to play again, I think, in his decision whether he runs in a couple of years' time.
Let's get back to the UK. In fact, before we do, we're sort of going back to the UK. But what did Donald Trump say about Britain in that interview?
Well, so it's clear that he is an Anglophile. He keeps constantly talking about his mother from Scotland and how she loved the UK and how he is a big fan of the UK. Told Nigel about bringing the Winston Churchill bust back into the Oval Office.
Yes.
Barack Obama had taken it out. He's obviously got financial interests in Scotland and in Ireland as well. He was a big supporter of the Queen, felt that Harry and Meghan had treated her pretty badly. But in saying that, and he talked, to be fair, quite nicely about Boris Johnson as Prime Minister, didn't quite like his green agenda, but frankly, I think they still do get on. Interesting, though, it's just that kind of thing about where the special relationship is right now. And there is a sense that it's not necessarily in a bad place, but I don't think you've got the same rapport between President Biden and Donald Trump that we've seen with former US presidents before and British prime ministers. But there is no doubt, I think, that Donald Trump is a closer friend and ally to the UK than, let's say, President Biden is.
Darren McCaffrey, as ever, thank you. Now, Donald Trump thinks Twitter is boring these days.
Also, there's no excitement on Twitter anymore, as I understand. There used to be a lot of excitement. Not only me, conservative people are leaving and being canceled. So they're canceled, they're leaving. And in my case, you know, we used to get tremendous interaction with liberals and everybody else. And now they just say it's a very boring place to be, Twitter, and it's going down. The numbers are going way down.
So don't you be boring. Get in touch. Give me your political briefing. Send in your views and opinions by emailing gbviews@gbnews.uk or tweet me at gbnews. Now, if we're honest, we've probably all streamed the odd music track and not really thought about the impact on the artist or the band. But streaming means the people behind the music might not be paid at all. Campaigners want to tighten up the law so that music streaming pays more like radio. MPs are set to debate a better deal for musicians and songwriters tomorrow. Let's speak now to the MP bringing what's called a private members' bill into the Commons tomorrow to do just that, Labour MP for Cardiff West, and a self-declared, very proud member of the Musicians' Union. Kevin Brennan, welcome.
Hello, Gloria.
It is lovely to see you.
You too.
Right, tell us about how the bill that you want to introduce would give musicians more of a fair share of cash, really.
Yeah, if someone listens to a record on the radio, there's actually, under UK law, a payment that goes to the people who made that record that it's got a technical name. It's called equitable remuneration. It's just a payment that they get when their record's played on the radio. But when you stream it, sometimes musicians don't get anything at all. And if they do, they sometimes get a tiny little pittance. So my bill would recognise the fact that streaming is really taking over these days a lot from other forms of listening to music, including radio, and would mean that there was a payment they'd be guaranteed each time their track got played on Spotify or other music streaming services.
Now, clearly, some musicians, pop stars in my language, are very wealthy. So Adele, for example, is clearly very wealthy. So is there an argument that if you're really popular and people like listening to you, then you will make cash, but actually if you're less popular, then you won't earn as much money?
Well, this isn't aimed, obviously, at people like Adele, who you know, are incredibly sort of successful artists. It's really aimed at those people who are, you know, critically acclaimed. They've got a good fan base. They should be making a career out of music. They've not made a penny during the last couple of years because of COVID and no live. And it shone a light on the fact of how little they're getting paid, even though often their music's been streamed by hundreds of thousands of people millions of times, and they're really ending up with a pittance. That can happen. So I'm not talking about, you know, these days anybody can make a record and put it out there and so on, but I'm talking about people who are credible musicians who ought to be able to make some kind of a living, a contribution to the living anyway, from recorded music.
Yeah, and when you say a pittance, does it vary what a pittance is?
I was just looking before we came in, because there's this thing called Spotify Unwrapped, which has just come out. And it shows what people get paid, you know, for their streams. And there was one artist, her name's the anchoress, her name's Catherine Ann Davis. She's got this great critically acclaimed album out this year. She's had over 600,000, you know, streams of that. And she was just saying she's not received anything because her deal means she doesn't get any money from the record label, even though so many people, you know, a couple 100,000 people have streamed it. It's been listened to a lot. It's been recommended by people like Elton John and so on. But so far, she hasn't got a penny out of that situation. So,
so she's literally working for free?
Well, you know, pretty much so. I mean, you do get an advance sometimes from your record label to help you make the record. And, you know, the music industry is largely controlled by three very big corporations. We haven't got really a big UK-based record company anymore since EMI got taken over. So these three big corporations, Sony, Warner and Universal, control a lot of the market. And they're running it as if it was still records being made and being distributed in lorries to record shops and all that. Whereas, in fact, their costs are pretty minimal when it's a digital distribution system. So they should be able to afford to give the artists a bit more.
And those record company bosses, they're still paid a huge wage, are they?
Yes, well, the boss of Universal, one of the three this year, because they did a share offering, is due to end up with trousering, I think is the tabloid phrase, £153 million this year, which is more than every songwriter and composer in the UK, including those big names, will get from their music being streamed. So, you know, really there is a lot of money out there. There's a lot of money out there, and some of that, all I'm saying, it should be trickling down into the pockets of the working class. You know, the people who are making music, are trying to make a living out of it, bringing great pleasure to us, are the creative force at the base of this industry, without which it wouldn't exist.
So basically, are you trying to get the money? Are you trying to charge us more for streaming, or trying to get the record company bosses to share it a bit?
That's a different question. My bill doesn't really deal with that. It's
Right.
a different question as to whether, you know, perhaps people should be prepared to pay more, but actually it doesn't deal with that. It doesn't really deal either with the fact that a lot of people don't realise that if you only stream an artist you really love, it doesn't mean they get the money, because it goes into a pool that gets divided up, you know, according to the overall number of streams. So you might be subsidising somebody else's listening in a way. But it doesn't deal with that. It simply deals with the fact that if you were playing on the radio, you'd get this guaranteed payment. And since streaming is taking over a lot from radio, unless we do something about that, that source of income to musicians will gradually dwindle away, and they won't get anything for their music being played in this way.
Now, you're a Labour MP, but actually there's a fair number of Conservative MPs that want to see change too. So it's a cross-party issue. You're working with Conservative MPs on this?
Yeah, absolutely. This is not a party political campaign on my part. It's a campaign by people who care about our music industry, our creative industries, which are the fastest growing part of our economy. People don't often realise that. And it's really about, you know, sharing out the money that's being made from that industry in a fair way, and making sure our creators are rewarded, and also making sure that the market power of these big companies, you know, isn't used in a kind of monopolistic way in order to, you know, generate huge profits for them at the expense of the people who really make the industry happen. And that's why a number of Conservatives who wouldn't always see eye to eye with on lots of different issues are backing my bill.
And you're bringing this as an ordinary MP, but for it to go anywhere, the government needs to back you. Have you had any indication? Have you had a quiet word with Nadine Dorries, the Culture Secretary?
Well, I have actually, and also with other ministers. It's only sensible if you're trying to do something on a cross-party basis. I mean, it's fair to say, I think at the moment the government are not ruling out legislating. They're not ready to at this point. I'm trying to persuade them that my bill is the bus they ought to get on, a way of doing something about this. But in fact, all of this came out of a select committee report, which is a cross-party report by MPs investigating this issue. So it you know, unanimously concluded we needed to do something. So the government are doing their own work on this as well, and I hope obviously that they would let my bill through and pick it up. But at the end of the day, what I want to see is results really for musicians, so we can carry on being a world leader, which we are, you know, in the UK, in the music industry, one of the few countries that actually makes export profits out of our music industry, because there's so much talent in this country.
And you're quite talented yourself, aren't you? You're in a band.
That's not for me to say, but yes, I am in a band. I've even released a solo album, and unironically, it is available on all streaming services. If people want to try
go on. What's it called?
It's called The Clown and the Cigarette Girl.
Thank you for coming in. Thank you for coming in. The Clown and the Cigarette Girl.
Yes, check it out.
Check it. I will. What an interesting title. Kevin, it's lovely to see you. First time on my show, and it's great that you came into the studio.
Yeah, nice to see you too, Gloria.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you. Coming up, the latest in my special series of interviews where we meet the person behind the politics. Today, Tory MP for Stroud, Siobhan Bailey. We talked growing up in a council house, working class aspiration, and online trolling. First, it's the news with Rhiannon Jones.
I'm Rhiannon Jones. Here are the latest headlines. A new COVID antibody treatment has been approved for use in the UK. Clinical trials found Xevudy cut hospital admissions and deaths by 79% in those at risk of developing severe disease. The government has also secured 114 million jabs for potential booster campaigns over the next 2 years. Scientists believe they found the trigger that causes rare blood clots after the Oxford-AstraZeneca vaccine. A team from Cardiff and the US thinks it now understands how the vaccine can sometimes cause a chain reaction in the immune system. It's hoped the findings will help prevent and treat blood clots in future. The Mail on Sunday has lost its Court of Appeal challenge against the Duchess of Sussex. That's after the paper published a personal letter from Meghan Markle to her estranged father. In a statement, she said that the invasion of privacy is a daily fail and that her victory again cements that the paper broke the law. Voters are heading to the polls in the Old Bexley and Sidcup by-election. 11 candidates are contesting the seat, which has been a Tory stronghold for decades. It was triggered after the death of former Cabinet Minister James Brokenshire in October. The Ministry of Defence has set a new target for female recruits, aiming to more than double the number by 2030. It follows a landmark inquiry into the treatment of women in the armed services. It found that 64% of veterans and 58% of those still serving experienced bullying, harassment and discrimination during their careers. And Christmas shoppers are being warned against relying on positive reviews for their online purchases. The National Trading Standards says there's been a rise in criminals writing fake reviews to sell poor products. Government figures show they potentially influence £23 billion of UK consumer spending every year. You're right up to date. I'll be back with more on today's top news stories at the top of the hour. See you then.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else, I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Now it's time for the latest in my series of very special interviews with MPs where we go behind the politics and get to know the real person. Today, Siobhan Bailey, Conservative MP for Stroud and a solicitor. We talked growing up, aspirations, online trolls and dancing. Siobhan Bailey, welcome. So you're 40 years old, you were elected at the last election. You grew up in a council house. Tell me your memories of childhood.
Yeah, I mean, so I grew up in Crawley in Sussex in a council house. My mum and dad bought their council house, which I actually only found out recently, which is, it's just not something they talked about. But yeah, we had pretty solid, mum and dad still together. And then I understand now that their marriage was in quite a lot of difficulty. So they basically put a pin in the map and moved the whole family up to Yorkshire to see if they could all start again. And so I'm the eldest of three, so me, my brother and sister, mum and dad moved up to Yorkshire. No connections up there, went up to Filey near Scarborough.
Do you remember a happy childhood?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a tale of two parts, really. So I think the kind of Sussex bit was, I was very young. I was only 8 when I moved. I remember parties, but then sometimes you think that's probably from various different pictures I've seen. But the Yorkshire bit, I mean, we had a lot of freedom up there. My mum and dad didn't stay together in the end, actually. My dad found it really difficult to get work up there, so ended up working down south. And my mum's a nurse. She couldn't get a job as well, so she started working in a old people's home. But what happened kind of when we were in Yorkshire is my dad started working down south and then travelling up, so he used to come up to see us every 3 days, and then it became sort of too expensive, so it became every week, and then it was every fortnight, and then it was every month. And he was, I mean, I look back now as an adult, he was amazing. He always kept in touch with telephone calls and things, but ultimately that was quite a sort of a change in our world, most definitely.
So what age were you when your parents split up?
Yeah, I think it was about 8, 9, 10 sort of time. It was quite gradual. They did quite a lot of protecting us from it. I think now, especially because of the job I went on to do as a family lawyer, I think my dad, this is my memory, and my brother and sister may have a different memory, but my dad actually decided that he was going to tell us that mum and dad weren't going to be together anymore, and he took us to a toy shop in York, and for him, I know now, he's told me since, was just literally the worst day in the world. But for us, he said, we're going to split up, mum and dad are going to split up, or he told us. But then he said, crucially, and you can have any toy in the shop. So we literally were like, yeah. So running around. So the memory for me, it was actually beautifully handled by him. And then when I kind of went on to advise clients, I often told that story about separating, how there's never an easy way to separate, but it was, it's a very much tale of two halves with the childhood. But happy, had lots of interests. I danced every night. We had lots to do. So
dancer.
Yeah.
Are you a good dancer?
I used to be. Yeah. If I tell you what, if Strictly was on the telly when I was growing up, that would have been the aim for the job, but it wasn't. So I decided to get a proper job. But I think.
Would you go on Strictly?
Oh, everybody would. Literally, everybody would go on Strictly. Yes, you would.
I can't dance.
Oh yeah, you'd be brilliant. Everybody knows it's the sequins. It's everything. Yeah, they teach you.
Tell me what dances you're good at.
I love Latin. I love Latin and ballroom. Actually, the older I get, the sort of the ballroom, because it's close hold and it's a lot. It's just much more beautiful and sort of fluid. And with a good partner, I think any good partner can make you look good.
And do you do some dancing now?
No. I do a little bit of sort of like bouncing around in the kitchen just to keep myself fit, but otherwise nothing. No, don't have time.
And do you have a life partner?
My husband.
You're married?
Yeah, we're married. Yeah, I'm married.
Children?
Children, a little girl. She's 18 months old. So I was pregnant during the election, actually, and nobody knew, so it was 3 months. So I was busy sort of knocking on doors and saying, hello, my name's Siobhan, I'd like to be your MP, and then disappearing off and being sick behind a hedge, and then coming back again and starting again, and having quite a lot of little mini sleeps in lay-bys, because that period, that first kind of trimester bit when you're just exhausted. So it was a bit of a challenge, but it was there. So.
Were there things that you went without materially when you were growing up?
Yeah, I mean, so my mum, my dad didn't have very much money, and my mum was also on income support for a long time. So we were free school meal kids. I remember money being incredibly tight. I remember just little basic things like being told to only use one square of toilet paper, or not to eat. And we ultimately had quite a chaotic childhood. I think my mum was trying to work really hard. She wasn't at home very much. Wasn't much food in the house. Later on, as an older teenager, I was pretty feral, and there was just no adult presence, really.
So you went off the rails a little when you were a teenager?
Yeah, I moved out when I was about 15. Just what we would now call sofa surfing. I just went to live with other people in the town.
Your mum and dad still with us?
Oh yeah. No, they're lovely, and we have a brilliant relationship. All three of us, a brilliant relationship with my mum and dad, and I give them credit for everything that they've done for us, and they've given us a real sort of a real passion for life. And my brother went in the RAF in the ranks and rose to be an officer. He worked really hard. My sister actually got pregnant at 15, had a baby with Down syndrome, has gone on to have just be the most incredible mum. mum, and I'm really proud of her. So I think whatever they instilled in us because of who they are and because of what they did for us, it's all there and it's kind of shone through in the end.
So how did you do at school? So you move out, so 7 at 15, how did you get on at school?
I wasn't great. I mean, I didn't do very well at school. I got A's for English. I'm really proud of that, but basically flunked the rest. And I think there was, my teachers were quite frustrated, I remember at the time. And again, I look back as an adult and they must have looked at this kid and thought, she could do really well, what is going on, but wouldn't have had any idea. And of course, back in those days, there wouldn't have been any investigations or any kind of eyes on the family. So I didn't do particularly well. I went on to sixth form, again, just didn't, there was no I didn't know how to study. Like I didn't know. So I went to work. I had a job in Presto's supermarket, and I could earn a bit of money myself. I earned £33 a week at one point. That was like mega bucks. So I had far more money than I do now. So
did you leave sixth form? How old did you?
So I'm quite young in my year. So I left sixth form at 17,
right.
And then basically moved straight down south to get a job as a legal secretary. So, yeah.
And how was that?
Yeah, so I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I knew that I wasn't going to be able to earn money teaching dancing. Had been teaching dancing classes, but I was quite a few adults had said you need to sort of get a job. So my aunt and uncles all lived down in Reading, Berkshire, so they were really open and they just said, come down here, there's plenty of jobs down here, it'll give you a bit of a fresh start. And I applied. I think I wrote to lots of law firms in Reading completely speculatively, and one wrote back and I got an interview, which was, I mean, I do want to say as well, we talk about social mobility, it's always about getting poor kids into Oxford or when the poor kid gets into Eton on some sort of scholarship. Actually, that move into a solid job, regardless of the salary, that is social mobility in action. And then, the sideways moves into management or passing an exam or anything, they should be the bits that are championed. And everyone around me was really proud because it was like a great thing.
Legal secretary is that's a great title. From a normal background, I would have been proud to have been a legal secretary.
So no, that was really good, and the firm were very nurturing, very pretty old-fashioned high street law firm. Quite regionally had a few offices, but they were really good, and they found a training scheme that helped me train to become a solicitor. So they basically supported me through doing that.
So you went on a course while you were a legal secretary and qualified as a solicitor, but without going to university?
Yeah.
Right, okay, so you took a different route into, sort of an apprenticeship route into being a solicitor.
Yeah.
Parliament is overwhelmingly full of graduates.
Yeah.
Do you ever, what do you make of that? Do you think actually I've got better experience than you guys? Do you feel intimidated? How would you put in your own words?
I think Parliament's probably better for having the mix of people. And I mean, I'm pretty new as well. And when I was growing up, it was the first thing people used to ask you was, where did you go to uni? And I was quite embarrassed of having not gone to uni. And I used to try and sort of fudge it, hide it and say, but I'm doing law school or whatever stage I was at. But actually now nobody asks. And whether that's age or whether that's just because the world's moved on a little bit. And I've really tried to, I have been pecking the heads of ministers, even before I was an MP, about further education and skills and colleges and investing into colleges, just because of from the Labour government that it was a very much focus, get 50% of kids into university and not a lot of chat about the other 50%, actually to the point where there wasn't much investment in them, and a lot of parents thought it was the only route to success. So it was there was a lot of stigma attached, I think, of going to colleges. So I've been really labouring that, and I think me being allowed into Parliament, actually winning an election and being in Parliament just shows that you can do any job, and there's plenty of CEOs, plenty of high achieving people that are also in their positions without having gone to uni, but they just don't talk about it.
When did you realise you were a Conservative?
Yeah, so I thought you might ask me this. They say, when I went, we are not a political family. I've just told you, people say, well, did you talk about politics around the table? I was like, not only did I not talk about politics, there wasn't a table and there was no food, but I think I went to vote at 18 and I was living with my uncle at the time, and I kind of canvassed a few people, just opinions, said I want to go and vote, no idea about any of this stuff. My dad told me that the Labour Party would bust the country financially, so I remember that comment. And then my uncle, who I was living with, I remember being stood at the bottom of the stairs. He's painter and decorator, you know, self-made, just gets on with his world. And he said, he was trying to be kind of provocative. He said, so do you want to be a success in your life? And I was like, well, yeah, of course I do. And he said, and when you are a success, do you want to keep the money that you earn for you and your family? And I was like, yeah, of course I do. And he said, the only people that will let you keep more of your money in your pocket are the Conservatives. And I just always, I mean, that's, you know, it may be indoctrination, it may be, I've always remembered that. And then I voted blue. And then kind of fast forward, thinking a bit more about politics, you know, just really looking at the differences between the parties and the differences of approaches. And I'm just really, obviously really comfortable being a Conservative. So,
is there a Conservative leader throughout, living or otherwise, who is your hero or heroine?
Yeah, I think there is a bit of a mix of all of them. I mean, I think Margaret Thatcher being on the throne in number 10 when I was growing up, it has an impact on all of like our age group of women, seeing a woman. So I think I also like the way she kind of described the country's finances. You know, she brought it back down to basics of, you know, she had to run a household budget, and you could kind of see the country saying, yeah, actually there are some things we have to go without, and there are some difficult choices. And I always thought that was really, so I thought she was a good communicator. And then, yeah, just a little bit. So I came really sort of into politics and alive with politics under David Cameron. I really liked his life chances strategy. I really liked his kind of focus on early years and making sure that sort of the aspiration starts young and that we're investing upstream to try and help people. And we've been doing quite a lot of work on that lately with Andrea Leadsom. So that work's continuing, which is good. So.
And you say you're a very comfortable Conservative, but already you have rebelled.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. Tell me what you've rebelled on.
Yeah. Do you know? Actually, well, you will know because I know you've rebelled on Brexit. It's really tough, and actually, constituents are mainly interested when you rebel. All the stuff that you kind of vote on that you know is positive, and you're making such a, you get the most messages, and you actually get thanks when you rebel. But I try to say to people, schools ask me this, and say if you constantly publicly stood up and said that your team and your head teacher or your bosses were wrong, eventually it would become problematic, not only for you but also for the team. And so I think it's right that rebelling is hard. I rebelled, I've abstained on the free school meals issue. Actually, government had loads of really good policies in train, but I thought it was handled very badly in terms of the media, and I wanted the message to get out there that you know, the party is really thinking hard about doing school meals and so in the summer, which we were already doing. So I abstained on that, and then there was a change with the government policy anyway. I rebelled on the COVID regulations. I'm the APPG chair for weddings, and when the last round of kind of big COVID regulations were just making no sense, and they were really affecting a lot of the hospitality and wedding businesses, I just felt so strongly that we were not being kind of given sufficient information. I rebelled on the sewage vote recently.
We'll be here all day.
But
it's interesting.
And yeah, but that's because we've got a £9 million investment going into Stroud, and you know, that's canals, that is our waterways, that's for tourism, that's for business, and you know, we've got to make sure we're doing our best to make sure sewage is out. And then I did abstain recently on the on social care bill. Yeah, you didn't need that full list. So, yeah.
It's quite an impressive list, or not if you're a government whip. Just tell me, if you don't have to tell me this actually, but I've got to ask, what is it like when you're going to rebel? How much pressure do you come under from the whips from other colleagues?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it depends on the vote, but there's a lot of pressure, and you don't want to let your side down and the team down. So for me, you've just got to be very, very clear about having read everything, having spoken to constituents, being very clear it's the right thing to do for Stroud, the right thing to do for me, and then you can deal with the kind of incoming of the calls. I've got, the whips are reasonable people, that they do try and talk through things. They obviously try and talk you out of things. They wouldn't be doing their job if they don't. But it is quite a lot of pressure.
Finally, you are campaigning against the online trolls, which we all know about if we are anywhere near social media. What's the worst abuse, and how frequent is the abuse that you are subject to as a Member of Parliament?
So I don't look, so that's a key point of protection, but I did look the other day ahead of doing the bill, just out of interest, and I shared it on Instagram actually, where I was called a "see you next Tuesday," an ugly witch, and just all sorts of different horrible stuff. That's pretty much normalised now, but what I'm trying to explain to people is I am quite a tough cookie with this. I have a team of people around me. My husband actually goes through my troll. He's named quite a lot of my trolls, just to keep it kind of humorous. But there are a lot of people sat at home getting that type of abuse from unknown people and getting indecent images sent them from unknown, and it's terrifying, and it throws them off their day, or it makes them want to say anything online, and it makes them not want to apply for jobs that are public facing. So that's, as much as we talk about MPs and celebrities, it is very much more about the everyday kind of occurrences. So I really want to see changes, and I think government is listening. So,
Siobhan Bailey, it's been a pleasure. I reckon you're really tough.
I hope so.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing the real you with me.
Thank you.
You've been watching The Briefing with me, Gloria De Piero. The show is back with me every Monday to Thursday from midday. Isabel Oakeshott will be here tomorrow at midday. Up next, it's On the Money with Liam Halligan. Then I'll be with Liam between 2 and 3. But for now, it is time for your weather.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello again. It is cold out there today, but that strong wind that we had yesterday is gradually easing down, and for most, there's quite a bit of sunshine around as well. Here's the bigger picture. This little bump in the isobar, a ridge of high pressure, bringing most a fine day today, but this weather front will bring some wet weather tonight, and there are these little features that have been pushing down from the north. One brought some sleet and snow to parts of Wales and southwest England earlier on. That's clearing away. We do still have showers, though, just bumping into the east coast of England, particularly for Norfolk there, chiefly of rain. Elsewhere, most places fine and bright, sunny spells. The cloud increasing though for Northern Ireland and Scotland, so the sunshine turning hazy. It is chilly, temperatures below average for the time of year, but at least that wind is easing. Still a cold wind blowing those showers into the east coast through this evening, and then that next weather system bringing wet weather with some snow as it hits the colder air across Scotland for a time, and perhaps also for a time over parts of northern England, maybe even into the Midlands. A little bit of sleet and snow is possible, but although it'll turn quite cold this evening, that weather system will also introduce milder air, so temperatures will rise through the night. Still perhaps a little bit of snow across East Anglia and the southeast if you're up early enough on Friday morning, but that will quickly turn back to rain before the rain clears away. More rain then coming into the southwest later on tomorrow, but for, again, the bulk of the UK, it's dry. Quite a drab day across the south, lots of cloud here, but some sunny spells further north, but there will be some showers coming into western Scotland. Those showers of rain at low levels, but turning to snow over the hills. We could see a bit more rain pushing into Wales and perhaps a bit further north, maybe into the Midlands during Friday evening, and that leads into a mixed picture through the weekend. Going to stay on the cold side through the weekend. Some sunshine, but plenty of showers on Saturday. Sunny for many on Sunday, but still some showers along the east coast.